The news has dropped lately that the Big Ten will no longer be on ESPN when the next media rights contract rolls around. ESPN decided that, I don't know, paying $380 million was too much money or something. They ended a 40-year, since 1982, relationship with the Big Ten Conference. Do you care about this? I think it's kind of interesting. I think there's some things to be said about it, which is why I'm doing this video. John Johnston, Corn Nation, trying as hard as I can. Let's go back to when the BTN was started. You know, the Big Ten Network, everybody said Jim Delaney, the current the conference commissioner at that time, was crazy for starting his own network. And then, you know, BTN was wildly successful and made the Big Ten just crap tons of money. All of that because they looked at, you know, at that time people were like, oh, we're cutting the cord, we're getting rid of cable. And they wanted, you know, to just pay for stuff like a la carte, just pay for what they wanted. And then since then became the rise of all these streaming services. Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Netflix, Paramount, Apple. I don't even know what I pay for. I don't. I don't do the bills. My wife does that because she's better at it than I am. I know that when I try to cancel something, somebody gets mad because they no longer watch some favorite series they have. Oh, Amazon Prime's in there too. Spotify, if you include the family edition that everybody leeches off the dear father here. Problem with the streaming services is they're raising prices because we had this pandemic, and everybody was at home, and they said, wow, we want to watch lots of Netflix, and we got Tiger King and stuff like that. And now that there's no longer a pandemic and people can actually go out into the world and celebrate life and things like that, you know, the streaming services are, you know, Netflix has dropped subscribers and lost revenue, and oh my God. But the key here is that the streaming services are getting more expensive. You know, Netflix says they're going to make up for this by adding advertising. Guess what? If you want me to drop Netflix, go ahead and put ads in your frickin' sub-average content. I mean, really, most of it is kind of like, I think I'll watch this just to waste 2 hours. Some of that stuff, I mean, it's great, but if you're going to stick ads in it, you still think I'm going to pay for this? I don't think so. Streaming services getting expensive. So, what do you do with your next media contract? Well, we're looking at NBC, CBS, and Fox splitting up the Big Ten media rights in the next version of their contracts. And the key to those three broadcasters or companies or whatever they are is this. This is a TV antenna. This doesn't cost you monthly. You can go buy this. I think this, I don't know, maybe 90 bucks. I think it has a range of 60 miles. If you're in an urban area, have you ever hooked an antenna to your TV's input and actually seen what's available in your area? Because there's a lot of digital channels over the air. Some of them are pretty interesting. There's a lot of Christian broadcasting, kind of like ministers talking, that can be weirdly entertaining at times. In the next media contract, all that stuff will be over the air. You won't have to buy streaming services to get the biggest Big Ten games. So how much is that going to increase the audience? I'd say by a great deal, because people can just, you know, get an antenna. Bam. I think it's a really significant move. I mean, it moves with the market. You know, that's, I think, if I remember correctly, Jim Delaney didn't make his contract as long as everybody else because he knew that the market would change. Am I going to give Kevin Warren the credit for this? No. Just because. Here's the thing. You're going to see like Fox with their big noon Saturday. That's going to be the big game of the week. I know there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, it's not at nighttime, and that would be the big game. No, the big game of the week will be at 11 a.m. Central, God's time. And then, let's say CBS would have the 2:30 Central game. And then prime time would go to NBC. Funny thing is CBS is usually the SEC. NBC is usually Notre Dame. I wouldn't read anything into the whole Notre Dame thing just because. You know, this contract is moving along. We've seen no movement from Notre Dame. Don't worry about it until it happens. But you got those three networks. My only worry there is, do we have to have Gary Danielson as an announcer? I mean, we wouldn't have Kirk Herbstreit anymore. There are a lot of people that don't like him, but Gary Danielson, tell me it isn't so. God, I'll find out. I'd have to find a, I don't know, alternative. What are the risks or what are the problems with this? Well, is the ESPN not going to cover the Big Ten? You know, we already claim that the ESPN has a big SEC bias, and quite frankly, I think they do. It'll become more pronounced because SEC will be moving to ESPN, I think in 2024, where they've been at CBS before. So they're making just the opposite move, and that probably explains why ESPN didn't want to cough the money up for the Big Ten. The other key is this. ESPN controls the narrative about the college football playoff because ESPN owns the college football playoff. But they only own the college football playoff until, what is it, notes, 2025. But after that, what happens? Probably not ESPN, because if you remember that whole, the alliance thing that got formed between the Big Ten, the ACC, and that other conference that's had their two biggest members leave, you know, that conference was formed so that the College Football Playoff Committee didn't expand under ESPN as a trial. And really, I think the purpose of it was to make sure that ESPN didn't get the next college football contract just because they were kind of making moves in that direction. So I would say that when the next college football playoff contract comes up, that they're going to split it up. Why? Because they'll make a lot more money at it. You know, you have one bidder versus 3 or 4. What do you think's going to happen? But that's how I see the ESPN thing with Big Ten. I guess, you know, I'll be honest with you. I haven't watched ESPN's College Game Day. It's usually not something I watch anymore. I think it's just become overly produced and, quite frankly, kind of boring. I mean, you know, I loved Lee Corso. I think Chris Fowler is really one of the best guys in college football. Kirk Herbstreit could take him or leave him. I think he's okay. I don't feel the Nebraska hate that a lot of you do. But by and large, here's what I do. I don't pay any attention to announcers unless it's Gary Danielson. Then it just grates me and I want to commit crimes. That's my take on it. I want to hear what you guys have to say about ESPN going away for the Big Ten. I'm John Johnston, Corn Nation. Please subscribe to my channel and help me out because, you know, it's a goal thing. Take care of yourselves. Go Big Red. We're almost to the 2022 football season. Aren't you excited?